Welcome to Health Insight MD. Today's video is called Diabetes 5 Nutritional Deficiencies that Make Blood Sugar Control Difficult. Before we begin, please click the like button. This greatly motivates us to continue creating content to help you, and also helps this video reach more people who need this information. Let's get to today's video.
Have you ever had the feeling that you're doing everything right? Following your diet, avoiding sugar, controlling carbohydrates, and yet your blood sugar just won't go down. That frustration of looking at your blood glucose test results and thinking, "It can't be happening. What else can I do?" If this has ever happened to you, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover can completely change the way you view diabetes management. Many people live with diabetes or prediabetes and believe that the problem lies only in what they eat or the amount of sugar they consume. And yes, diet is fundamental, but there is a silent factor, little talked about and often ignored even by those who think they are taking good care of their health. Nutrient deficiencies that directly affect blood sugar control. Deficiencies that don't cause immediate pain, don't appear clearly in everyday life, but sabotage the functioning of your body from the inside, making blood sugar difficult to control. Maybe you've heard someone say, "Just cut out sweets and it'll be solved," or "Just shut your mouth." But those who live with diabetes know that the reality is much more complex. There are people who eat well, avoid excesses, follow medical advice, and still face glucose spikes, constant fluctuations, and that feeling that their body isn't responding. This happens because glucose control depends not only on what you take off your plate, but also on what your body may be lacking. And this is where nutritional deficiencies in diabetes come in. Vitamins and minerals play an essential role in insulin action, glucose entry into cells, and blood sugar balance. When these nutrients are lacking, even a seemingly correct diet may not be enough. The body tries to do its job, but without the right tools. The result is insulin resistance, difficulty in glycemic control, and persistent blood sugar problems. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, but something invisible seems to be getting in the way? Many people with diabetes face exactly this scenario without realizing that they are dealing with vitamin and mineral deficiencies that directly affect metabolic health. And what is most worrying is that these deficiencies are extremely common, both in those with type 2 diabetes and in those in the prediabetes phase. The human body functions as an interconnected system. For glucose to be used correctly, several processes need to happen at the same time. Specific nutrients help insulin to act better. Others participate in the regulation of blood glucose, and some directly influence the sensitivity of cells to insulin. When there is an imbalance, the famous problems of blood sugar control arise, even without major errors in the diet. And you know what makes it even more complicated? Many of these deficiencies aren't easily noticed. They don't give clear signs at first. The person goes through life thinking everything is fine, while their blood sugar remains unstable. Over time, this can lead to discouragement, guilt, and even the feeling that nothing works. But the truth is, they may be directly linked to the fact that blood sugar is difficult to control. Let's talk about essential vitamins and minerals, which many people don't consume in adequate amounts or don't absorb correctly. Nutrients that have a direct impact on insulin resistance, glucose metabolism, and blood sugar balance. Perhaps you'll discover that a small adjustment, something that has never been clearly explained to you, can make a big difference in your glycemic control. And we're not talking about miracle solutions, but about health education, knowledge about nutrition for diabetes, and a real understanding of how the body works. Information that empowers instead of blaming. While you watch, I invite you to reflect. Is your body getting everything it needs to control glucose? Could there be a silent deficiency hindering this process? Stay with me until the end, because throughout this content you will see diabetes and blood sugar control in a much clearer and more strategic way. What follows will show you that, often, the problem is not just what you eat, but what is missing and understanding. This can be the first step to regaining control that always seems to be slipping through your fingers. And perhaps what hurts most in this whole process is the feeling of injustice. You look at your routine, the care you take, the choices you make every day, and yet you realize that your blood sugar control remains unstable. Sugar rises when it shouldn't, takes a long time to drop, and this makes it seem like the body is not responding as it should. This is a classic sign that something deeper may be happening, especially when we talk about nutrient deficiencies in diabetes. Often, the problem is not excess carbohydrates, but a lack of essential nutrients for the body to properly handle glucose. When deficiencies affect blood sugar, the body enters a state of silent imbalance. Insulin is present, but it cannot function correctly. Glucose circulates in the blood for longer, generating precisely that feeling that blood sugar is difficult to control. This explains why so many people face persistent problems controlling blood sugar, even when following medical and dietary guidelines. Vitamins and minerals play a direct role in how glucose is metabolized. And ignoring this is one of the biggest mistakes in diabetes nutrition. What almost no one explains is that vitamin and mineral deficiencies in diabetes can sabotage all your efforts. Nutrients such as magnesium, vitamin D, zinc, chromium, and vitamin B12 actively participate in regulating blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. When these nutrients are lacking, the well-known problems with blood sugar control arise. That blood glucose that doesn't obey, that fluctuates for no apparent reason, and that generates constant frustration. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, but the results simply don't come? That's exactly why understanding the relationship between nutrients and glucose control is so important. Nutrients for blood sugar control are not a detail or a supplement. They are the basis for proper metabolism. Without them, the body enters a state of resistance, difficulty in absorption, and metabolic imbalance. This scenario is common in both people with diabetes and those with prediabetes, and often goes unidentified for years. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover can completely change how you view your own glycemic control. From here on, we'll start looking more closely at these nutritional deficiencies that make it difficult to control blood sugar and understand, one by one, how they interfere with your daily blood glucose levels. The next point may explain exactly why, even with so much care, your blood sugar doesn't seem to want to cooperate. Vitamin D deficiency is one of the most ignored when we talk about nutrient deficiencies in diabetes, and at the same time one of the most impactful on blood sugar control. Many people spend years trying to adjust their diet, reduce carbohydrates, and avoid common mistakes in diabetes nutrition, without realizing that low vitamin D levels can be directly linked to insulin resistance, and the fact that blood sugar is difficult to control. This happens because vitamin D actively participates in the functioning of insulin and how glucose enters cells. When there is a vitamin D deficiency in diabetes, the body loses efficiency in regulating glucose. Insulin is produced, but its action is impaired, leading to more frequent blood sugar spikes and a constant feeling of being out of control. This is a classic example of deficiencies that affect blood sugar without the person realizing it, since the symptoms are not always obvious. Excessive fatigue, muscle aches, decreased immunity, and blood sugar fluctuations can all be signs that something is wrong with the balance of nutrients. This problem becomes even more common in people with type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, or those who have little sun exposure. Even those who eat well can develop nutritional deficiencies in diabetes because vitamin D depends on sunlight to be synthesized properly. Without it, problems arise in blood sugar control that seem to have no logical explanation. That's why understanding the role of nutrients in blood sugar control is so essential for metabolic health. When vitamin D is low, the body enters a state of imbalance that favors insulin resistance, making it even more difficult to regulate blood glucose. Often, this is the first step in a cycle of frustration. Dietary adjustments don't work. Blood sugar remains unstable, and the person believes they are failing, when in fact the problem may be a simple, yet serious, nutritional deficiency. What follows will help you understand how other vitamin and mineral deficiencies in diabetes may also be sabotaging your glycemic control without you realizing it. Magnesium deficiency in diabetes is one of the most common and, at the same time, one of the most underestimated when we talk about nutrient deficiencies that affect blood sugar. Magnesium plays an essential role in glucose metabolism, helping insulin to act more efficiently and facilitating the entry of sugar into cells. When this mineral is lacking, the body begins to have problems controlling blood sugar, even in people who follow the diet correctly. In cases of nutritional deficiencies in diabetes, magnesium deserves special attention because it is directly linked to insulin sensitivity. Low levels of this mineral favor insulin resistance, which makes blood sugar difficult to control. This is one of the main reasons why many people report that they do everything right, avoid excesses, but continue to face frequent glycemic imbalances. Here, the problem is not only in what is eaten, but in the lack of nutrients for blood sugar control. Another important point is that diabetes itself contributes to magnesium loss. Elevated glucose levels increase the elimination of this mineral through urine, creating a dangerous cycle. The greater the glycemic imbalance, the greater the magnesium loss, and the lower the magnesium levels, the worse the blood sugar control becomes. This explains why magnesium deficiency is so frequent in people with type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, and insulin resistance, in addition to directly affecting blood glucose regulation. Magnesium deficiency can also cause symptoms such as fatigue, cramps, tingling, and difficulty concentrating, signs that are often ignored or attributed to stress. In practice, this is one of the mineral deficiencies in diabetes that most contributes to silent glycemic control problems, and understanding this completely changes the way we view common mistakes in diabetes nutrition, because it shows that nutrient balance is as important as avoiding sugar or carbohydrates. Vitamin B12 deficiency in diabetes is more common than many people imagine, especially in people who have lived with the disease for years or who continuously use certain medications. This is one of the nutrient deficiencies that indirectly but profoundly affect blood sugar, because vitamin B12 is directly linked to the functioning of the nervous system, energy production, and overall metabolic health. When it is lacking, the body begins to give clear signs that something is wrong. In many cases of nutritional deficiencies in diabetes, vitamin B12 goes unnoticed because the symptoms appear gradually. Constant fatigue, weakness, lack of concentration, tingling in the hands and feet, and a feeling of exhaustion are common signs that many people associate only with stress or diabetes itself. The problem is that these symptoms also indicate difficulties in controlling blood sugar, since the body becomes less efficient at regulating glucose and responding correctly to insulin. Another important point is that vitamin B12 deficiency can worsen problems in blood sugar control by affecting insulin sensitivity and metabolic balance. This contributes to that very common scenario. The person feels they are doing everything right, following the diet, trying to maintain healthy habits, but still realizes that their blood sugar remains difficult to control. Here, again, we are not just talking about obvious dietary mistakes, but about vitamin deficiencies in diabetes that compromise the body's functioning from the inside out. In addition, a lack of vitamin B12 can directly impact neurological health, increasing the risk of complications associated with diabetes, especially when glycemic control is already not ideal. This reinforces how nutrient deficiencies and blood sugar control go hand in hand. Ignoring this type of deficiency means making glucose regulation even more difficult and prolonging glycemic imbalance problems. Understanding the role of vitamin B12 within the context of nutrition for diabetes completely changes the way we view the challenges of everyday life. It's not just about reducing sugar or carbohydrates, but about ensuring the body has the right nutrients to maintain blood sugar balance, preserve energy, and prevent diabetes from becoming increasingly difficult to control.